Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Okay,
What's
is it
up,
just me or
Star
does
Wars
like
fans?
See, already
What?
telling you.
How is he already talking? What are you saying, Dan? What are you already saying?
No, but
You know what
you
just happened? Just muted him.
Oh wow.
That was a very happy landing. That was awesome.
Another happy landing.
Hello there, people. You're listening to the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. Yes, we're your source for latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be talking about Daisy Ridley, who has been talking about the wars on the press circuit this week, and we'll be diving into what she has to say, plus new updates on the Mandalorian and Grogu, Ahsoka Season 2, and much more, plus another segment of hashtag Ask the SWU, so stay tuned for that later in the show. My name is Chris, and joining me is my favorite co-host this week, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Oh, I was about
Your
to say,
favorite co-host.
I was so
How
excited.
dare you?
I was
What
so
are you
excited.
saying? How dare you?
I'm gonna lord that over the rest of you for at least 7 days here.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Chris.
You know, as the favorite
You will
co-host,
have your turn.
I don't think I have to say anything. This is great. I'm excited to
Learn
be
to
here.
share.
Looking forward to talking about some Star Wars tonight. It's gonna be a great show.
Also joining us is Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
I'm just here in a protest. Because apparently I've been shafted. Anyway, yeah, okay, so, yeah, it's already turning out to be just a wild show already. So who knows what's gonna happen? Yeah, I don't know what to say. Just go on to the next person.
Also joining us, it's my future favorite co-host, Hannah from
I don't know, buddy. I don't know.
But it's the future now in
Oh
Australia.
boy, that's true. That's true. I'll give you that. G'day there. Great to be back for another week. Biggest news from this week is that I think I'm going to start a petition to rename the Gulf of Mexico to be after the great and honorable musician of the Star Wars universe called Max Rebo, and I think we should be calling it the Gulf of Max Rebo, just because I feel like he went down like a chumbo, and it's super sad that he died in Book of Boba Fett. Or did he? We don't know. Or in the barge? We don't know. I think, yeah, in the climate of things, I think we should just name it after someone who's a legend like him. Gulf of Max Rebo. That's what I'm petitioning.
I think Max Rebo is like the Kenny from South Park of Star Wars. It just dies every episode. Oh my god, they killed Max Rebo. I think that's
Literally.
what we're gonna have for from now on.
I'm going with that.
Oh man, that is a great idea. We should also rename Greenland Greedo Land after Dominic's middle name.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
there we go.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Greedo Land. Yes.
And while we're at it, let's just rename America the Galactic Empire.
Yes. Wait, that's not its current legal name. Wait.
I thought this was its name. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought.
Ouch.
Okay. And then also joining us, we have a very special guest. It is the founder of Star Wars Addicts Anonymous from F105 Music. It's Din.
Yeah, I just I have a problem, but I couldn't resist helping Ben disappoint his family more.
What is that supposed to mean? What is that? I am
the funniest thing I ever heard on a
insulted and
podcast.
perplexed and intrigued.
Dom, do you remember? I was texting you about. I've never laughed so hard in my life from a podcast when Ben made some offhanded comment. He's like, well, I might as well. I've already disappointed my family enough.
Oh my gosh! Yes, that was a few weeks ago. Yes.
It destroyed me. Yeah, I was laughing for a couple of days.
No, I look. I like to think everyone in Star Wars fandom likes me. Like I think I have a good family here. But I think my real family, that's a whole nother story. But all you guys like me, right?
Yeah, well, Ben.
Well, I don't think Chris. You're not the favorite.
Not the favorite co-host this week.
According to Chris, you're not the favorite. So
lost one of you. Jeez.
That's then you do have not one but 2 theme songs on this show, so perhaps we might be. And
I'm not even a solid host in the damn opening of the show, so I do think you're the favorite.
Yeah, and Ben has again 2 theme songs, 2 whole theme songs about
just
Ben.
for Ben,
as if I asked
special
for either
boy.
of them.
I think you did.
I think you did. You asked for both of them. You specifically put in a
Maybe
request.
I did. I don't know.
Yeah.
Henceforth, I shall be named Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Yes.
All right, Chris, plug some things and then we'll get into the show.
All right. So, if you're not subscribed to us, please subscribe to us. Each time someone does, one of us gets our wings. So, please subscribe to us so we can all have.
Don't sound so like beggar on the street-esque. Jeez.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Might as well get a paper cup. Please subscribe.
You can also super chat with us. That makes us actually fly once we have our wings. So definitely super chat with us. You can also become a channel member and check out the SWU Network Discord. We've got lots of great stuff over there, like game nights and watch parties. What's the next thing planned on the Discord, Ben?
Tomorrow night, as of recording this, we will be gathering to watch Princess Mononoke, a Studio Ghibli film. The first one that I've ever seen. Again, just picking stuff that I have almost no experience with. So, yeah, it should be interesting. Very, very, very excited.
That's such an interesting introduction to the Studio Ghibli universe. Very interesting. That's definitely a little different than the other ones, but that might be a good thing because it might be more similar to what you're used to. Cool. Awesome. So to watch Princess Mononoke with everybody on the SWU Network Discord, click on the link in the description to join our server. Make sure you also follow us at the SWU on social media and search for the Star Wars Underworld over on Threads. You'll find us over there, and Blue Sky as well. We are on that. And then finally, check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. We've got the Raeside, Iron Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more.
All right, let's get into things. Now, off the top there, Chris, you teased a whole bunch of news stories that we could talk about. We could talk about things that people have said in interviews. We could talk about all that. I think we should change things up for this week and jump right to the end of the show and start with Ask the SWU, because I think there have been some really good questions this week that are frankly more interesting than anything in the news. So let's do that. Let's jump right to the end of the show. We'll start with our Ask the SWU questions. This is where we answer the questions that you, the listener, have submitted for us. They're mainly submitted on our Discord, but you can also throw in a super chat and get us to answer the questions live as we go. And also, if you just put it like a really good question, we might answer it anyways. So let's start with a short novel written by our dear friend Joel Davis, who has a long question for us, but I think it'd be interesting to start with this. Joel writes, gonna put a question that I think got missed when things got busy with Skeleton Crew, but a good time to put it again, but with more added context. Because when Joel writes something, he doesn't write things short. Hey, Underworld. This is sort of a follow-up to my questions about the Clone Wars being a soft reboot of the prequel trilogy. So without further ado, are you able to think about Ahsoka while watching Revenge of the Sith? What I mean is, can you get past the disconnect of Ahsoka not existing as a character when Revenge of the Sith was originally released? For me, this is still one of those hurdles I haven't been able to overcome. As much as I love Ahsoka, I can't ignore the fact that her being Anakin's Padawan was a retroactive decision made later from an out-of-universe perspective. It affects my understanding of Star Wars stories post 2008, but it doesn't change how I view Revenge of the Sith, which came out years earlier. I'm never able to watch Revenge of the Sith and take Ahsoka and Anakin's relationship into account when considering Anakin's actions in the movie. This is mostly because I know Ahsoka didn't exist as a character when the film was released in 2005. At the time, George Lucas had no intention of giving Anakin a Padawan, at least until he changed his mind a few years later. To use another example, it's a similar disconnect to how some feel when trying to accept that after Palpatine is thrown down a shaft in Return of the Jedi, he jumps into his clone body on Exegol seconds later. Let's face it, George's intent in 1983 was that Palpatine was meant to be dead, plain and simple. Although for me personally, that isn't as much of a hurdle to get over. Maybe that's my Dark Empire and Palpatine bias showing. Perhaps a better example would be accepting the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi had several more entanglements with Darth Maul after the events of The Phantom Menace, when again, George most likely intended Maul to be dead. So yeah, does anyone else have that disconnect when watching Revenge of the Sith and trying to get your brain to accept that the 2008 Clone Wars show with Ahsoka and Anakin meeting, Kenobi encountering Maul, and Dooku and Anakin fighting last Tuesday, all happening in the same universe? It's something I still somewhat struggle with, even after seeing Hayden Christensen's Anakin literally interact with Ahsoka and call her Snips. Curious to hear your thoughts. Hope the question isn't too confusing.
Yeah. I'd love to jump in first on this because I think, yeah, like what you're saying here, Joel, I think is totally legit. And I think a lot of people will have that experience of finding it hard to just fully fictionally connect that Ahsoka was around and a force, pun intended, to, you know, an attribute to Anakin in the movie. I think personally, my experience, I think a lot of Star Wars is based on having to just reframe it in your mind. Like even, you know, watching original trilogy, like you had to do that in 1980 when you just had to forget, or 1983, when you forget that, you know, Luke and Leia kissed and you're like, okay, they're brother and sister now. Okay. Like there was so much like suspending of like what you thought was, and have to, because there's this respin on the story or a factor of the media or movie from Star Wars. So I don't know. I think personally, yeah, I'm just geared to believe and absorb whatever comes next. And I think that going into Revenge of the Sith, especially after season 7 of Clone Wars, was easy for me to do because I wanted it to be real in the story, and I loved Ahsoka and I loved that relationship and I loved what that meant for her in season 7 and for Anakin. So as much as I do think it's very valid to be like, this didn't exist. Like Anakin clearly doesn't know Ahsoka in Revenge of the Sith, but I think there's an element of just kind of being a little bit insane and connecting the dots in your own mind while you're watching, being like, yeah, Ahsoka's back there. Yeah. Like, I think there's just an element of insanity everyone's got to have to really believe that and get in that. But yeah, it's a good point. It's hard to do.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah. So I think while I'm watching the films, especially the original 6 films, I think there's 2 parts of my brain kind of working simultaneously. The one is like the logical part, just like, yeah, I know Revenge of the Sith was made in a time when Ahsoka and the Clone Wars and everything that we are watching today was not a thing. And that goes back to everything, you know, watching A New Hope and going like, haha, you know, Alec Guinness, you know, saying all this stuff about, you know, Anakin and all that stuff. Like he had no idea. George had no idea what was coming. But then there's the other part of my brain that's like, I can make this work, because even when stuff doesn't work, my brain is like, I need to connect things. I need to make this work because this is all one story. And even though it's two different actors, but things for me, Alec Guinness, Ewan McGregor, James Arnold Taylor, they're all playing the same character. It's all the same. It's all the thing. And, I do this with, watching Return of the Jedi. Like, I get emotional every time I watch Anakin's death scene in Return of the Jedi, because I am not only putting all the prequel stuff in there, I'm only putting all the Clone Wars stuff in there. And to me, it's all the same. So it really does it affects me on a really hyper level and a really emotional level when I watch those scenes, because I really do kind of incorporate it all in there. Revenge of the Sith is a special one because, it is like they're really playing with things, because it's like Ahsoka should be in Revenge of the Sith. She should be there. Like Siege of Mandalore, as great as it is kind of like Revenge of the Sith 2.0. It's the other side of that story. I know there's fan edits out there that like put the two together and make it work, and I haven't really watched any of them, but I'm sure it's interesting. But like, I understand not having that, but to me, it does all work. It does all just kind of mesh together, and it's just like, oh yeah, Revenge of the Sith, Ahsoka's just off screen. I know what Ahsoka's doing. I've seen Siege Mandalore. I know what she's doing. I don't need that. But yeah. So I think, logically speaking, like looking at that, going like, how does that work? Knowing that things don't always mesh together, but I think I obviously, I think we all do love these movies. We want them to work. We want them to make sense. And you kind of are forgiving in that way. And I kind of like will retcon stuff in my brain, even when it's maybe hard to do so.
Dan, what do you think?
We're all a little bit insane.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. You gotta be sure.
A lot of gymnastics, and you get the gold medal.
Yeah. Dan, what do you think? Because I'm not calling you old, but you are the only original trilogy generation person on the show. So you've been doing this longer than anyone. What do you think about this? You're muted, by the way, Dan. What do you think of this?
I just did a really good Yoda joke.
I'll
do it again.
Do it again.
When 49 years old, you reach, look as good you about.
That was actually fantastic. Wow, so good.
That's good.
Now my age is out there.
Yeah, but
judge me.
You've been doing this for longest as the OT fan, and having to go along with these changes, changes to the previous stories and the new stories. What do you think of like the Revenge of the Sith Ahsoka, thought that Joel was having?
Yeah, well, it is curious because, by the way, I am working. I'm paying attention. I'm like promoting the show. That's what I'm doing on here. Tune in live now. Just so you know, I'm not being rude. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Frank Oz, Tom Kane, Din.
Yeah, Jesse in the chat is saying Din should be the next one. Yeah.
Strangely, the Ahsoka thing doesn't get me, because I think they told that story so well about why she wouldn't be there, and it just made perfect sense about why she wouldn't be there. So I do have problems like everyone, because I am crazy like everyone else who's actually just watch my Facebook feed. You'll know I'm absolutely out of my mind.
It's perfect. It's perfectly normal. What are you talking about? It's perfectly normal.
Totally hinged.
Well, the modern music industry has forgotten that it's the role of singers to play the fool in court, to say the crazy things no one else wants to say. So I'm just doing my job. It's actually an archetype, in mythology, the fool in the court who's saying the things no one else wants to. Anyways, the thing that I couldn't deal with ever was like I couldn't see Hayden in the Vader suit. And the Kenobi show did it for me. After Kenobi, I can now see Hayden in the Vader suit in episode 4. And the thing is, sometimes they make choices that really could have helped, but they don't. Like the Vader suit at the end of Rogue One actually looks nothing like the suit at the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah, it's pretty
the,
different.
The New
It's very
Hope
different.
suit is asymmetrical, like the shape of the helmet's a little off. The mouth is to the side subtly. Most people don't know it, but you feel it. And he's got battle damage all over, you know, and it would have made perfect sense to have like a sort of a suit that looked exactly like A New Hope at the end of Rogue One to help that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The kiss never bothered me when I was a kid because I guess I was too young to even think about those things. But now the one that bugs me the most, and it's not even it actually, if only A New Hope was ever released, there's some things that just don't make sense even like on its own. Like Leia just lost her whole family and a genocide of her whole bloody planet, and she's comforting Luke, who knew Ben for like 2 days. And now it's even worse because of the Kenobi show, because she had this whole experience with him as a kid. So sometimes they actually kind of go out of their, it seems like they go out of their way to make it worse.
Yeah. Funny how that works. Chris, what do you think? You want to weigh in on this?
Yeah. So I think I already kind of, when this was first brought up, kind of told my opinions about it, which just to repeat, if this is the only episode of the podcast you've listened to.
First time listeners, welcome.
Yeah, if you're first time listener, my opinion is that Revenge of the Sith, it would be good if they remade that movie for many reasons, including this one. So if I could pick one thing to remake in Star Wars, it would be Revenge of the Sith. But in a world where it's not going to be remade, which is the case, I'm gonna go and nerd out at deeper levels than was possibly thought attainable on this question. All right.
Can I add a question? Oh, sorry.
No, let me do my nerd out.
I thought you were done. Sorry.
No. Okay. This was the segue. So, did you all know that the Clone Wars technically should be Legends? Because when you go back to the old canon system, there was G canon, C canon, and T canon, and then some other stuff that like was really off the wall. So G canon is G for George, and that's the films, not including the TV movies, just the films that were in theaters. Then you have T canon, which is television canon, which is what the Clone Wars show was. The 2008 CGI Clone Wars show was T canon. Then you have C canon, which is continuity canon, which is all of the other things like the books and the novels and the comic books and the games and all of that stuff. So, one thing that happened that people didn't notice, it happened very subtly, was when the great shift in canon happened, when they invented Legends canon and then made everything else canon. It was either canon or Legends. What most people know about is that they took all of continuity canon and made it Legends, and they took all of G canon and made it canon. But what is seldomly discussed is that they merged T and G canon together and put the television canon and the George canon on the same level because, well, George Lucas made the Clone Wars. He made the T canon. So why shouldn't it be on the same level as his own thing? The problem is there was a reason why that was classified differently. And that's because George wasn't even sticking to his own canon. He was in a different multiverse with the Clone Wars, which is why it was T canon, which is why you have crazy things happening, like Darth Maul being alive when you get to Revenge of the Sith and there's no Darth Maul in sight when he really should be in that movie if he's alive, and Ahsoka and Rex and all these other things. So it's a little tiny thing that happened that no one talked about, the merging of the T canon and the G canon into canon, and then everything else being Legends, that caused this particular problem. And now we have to reconcile two things that are different canons being canon. And that's why we're in this situation.
Question from the back.
Yes.
Do we honestly think it's an interesting. I hadn't considered that before, but do we honestly think George Lucas gave a flying fadoo about any of this? Do we think he cared? No. In George's mind, it was all his. It was like his thing was here, and then there was all this other crap that was over there. And if he liked something from the other crap, he'd say mine and bring it over to his. But otherwise, it was his own thing. So but George has believed in telling the story that he wanted to tell, and he wasn't going to be hindered by what had come before. And so he says to have a Padawan, so Anakin has a Padawan. And now it's on the rest of us to get on board with that, because he's just going to tell those stories whether we were interested or not. And we were
all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, all that stuff, all the tiers of canon, all that stuff, all the stuff that shows up in books and whatever else, about stuff. All that was people, I'm assuming, like Pablo Hidalgo, who were just doing damage control, who were just trying to basically like make sense of what George was doing, which arguably didn't make a whole lot of sense a lot of times. They're just like, I'm going to take this and that and whatever else, and taking different characters that didn't belong in one era, moving them to another era, and mixing things up, because he only really cared about things. He wanted the books and comics to be out there to finance his movies, but he really only cared about the storytelling element of his films and his TV shows.
Yeah, and really, like, let's be real, like, a lot of these decisions were made because of outside forces. Like Luke and Leia, like, they're his decisions, but they were made because he wanted to do something that wasn't necessary. He wasn't always necessarily thinking what's the best story. Luke and Leia become siblings because he goes, I cannot make another Star Wars movie after this third one, after Return of the Jedi. He's like, that's it. I'm out. I'm tired of this. I need a decades long break from doing this.
Right.
So he needs to wrap up the story, and he's thrown in there is another line in Empire, which is meant to set up something completely different. And he just has to make it work. All the kissy facing in the previous two movies and love triangles be damned. And then you got into the Ahsoka question. I think he's just like, I think it'd be interesting if we gave Anakin a Padawan. Let's see what happens. And so he does it, and he just sort of wants to do it. Like that. Sometimes it's because he just needs to solve a problem quickly, and sometimes it's just like, hey, let's just do something interesting. But yeah.
And I gotta say too, this is something I haven't brought up in a while. Maybe if we have some OG listeners in the chat, so we appreciate you, Northwest and Kenny. And Kenny is like an OG commenter. Like Kenny has been commenting specifically on our live streams for like almost 15 years, going back to the Mixer days, which is really cool. So we appreciate you. But something that I haven't talked about in a while is that there was a way to reconcile the thing with Ahsoka that I think everybody thought was going to happen, that I definitely thought was going to happen, which is we all thought she was going to die. Like, we all thought the plan was if Ahsoka dies before Revenge of the Sith, then she's just that awkward thing that's not talked about in Revenge of the Sith, because no one wants to talk about Anakin's Padawan that died. Like, and it makes more sense. And so I actually was, I would have been shocked back towards the beginning of the Clone Wars series to have been told in the future this character is not going to die and is going to be alive through Revenge of the Sith. I've been like, that makes no sense. This character's going
to outlive every other character in all of Star Wars.
I would have been shocked to hear that at that time, having just my conception of what the character was through the first few seasons of the Clone Wars and the Clone Wars movie. And just before I go on to why what happened, I will also mention that I thought Dooku was going to be the one that was going to kill her, because I thought that would have made sense, considering that Anakin only needed a little bit of a push to murder him. And I was thinking it wouldn't make so much sense if, all Palpatine had to say was do it to get Anakin to go against the Jedi Code, because Anakin had that resentment and anger against Dooku for killing Ahsoka, and he was avenging her death. Like, that's what I thought that was the only way to resolve it. And I was 100% respecting it. Now, of course, what happened was I don't think anyone saw coming Ahsoka becoming one of the most popular characters in the Star Wars universe. Ashley Eckstein becoming one of the most popular actresses to play a character in the Star Wars universe. And basically the collective Star Wars group coming together and saying, it just makes no sense from a marketing point of view to kill off this character. Like, we're going to lose money and we're going to lose favor with the fans if we do this, because everybody loves Ahsoka and Ashley Eckstein so much. She's such a pure character. It would just be so. I don't think we could ever come back from killing her. That just doesn't make sense. And so they never could fully kill her. They came close a few times, but they never fully could.
3.
And now we've got exactly. Now we've got Rosario Dawson and living on to the next generation, which is amazing. So that's why that happened. But single-handedly, with how amazing Ahsoka was written and acted, it broke canon. Because I think a character that George Lucas probably was expecting to be killed off to make sense of the Revenge of the Sith when he made that decision to create the character in the first place, all of a sudden becomes a character that you can't kill off, and then all of a sudden you have to what's the word? Suspend your disbelief while watching these things.
Yeah, so it's interesting. George Filoni has talked about this before. He said, George was more on team Ahsoka dies, and he was more on team Ahsoka lives, and they never quite settled on something. And then the series was canceled, and George sold the company and said, "I'm retired," and left it up to Dave. And Dave, as he said, was team Ahsoka lives, and so he made that happen and created this. Because the thing to do at Star Wars Celebration used to be find a small adorable child, put them in front of a microphone, and have them ask Dave Filoni what happens to Ahsoka, because everybody assumed that Ahsoka was going to die. So you were trying to get this child to get, to use their cuteness powers to get Filoni to admit to this live on stage. And he, to his credit, never did. Yeah. Interesting thought there, Joel. Interesting thought. Good discussion that you spurred there. Go ahead, Dan.
I really want a special edition of the prequels.
Okay.
Yeah. With the same treatment that the original movies got, with the things that are needed to sort of tie it together a little more. Like, for one, there's simple things. Like, let's have some individualized clones in Revenge of the Sith. You don't have to change the movie that much. It's just a few background CGI characters.
Yeah,
I swear.
Well, so I've always wanted to have a good discussion of like put together a list of what people would want. So, Chris, do you have any?
Well, yeah, I have an exhaustive list that includes Boss.
Okay, top three top three that are needed. No, but it's
Rex has to be one. Rex has to be one.
Top 3 that are essential to gluing the movies together, the saga together.
Actually, you can't do it with 3; it'll still be broken. So you have to have Padme have a more active role in Revenge of the Sith.
She's in the deleted. You could put the deleted scenes in, and then
so that's easy. You have to have Quinlan Vos actually show up. Doug Wrangler actually be in the movie.
Sorry. Why? How does that? What does that have to do with tying anything together?
Yeah,
I'm not. You say that like we should all know.
That's a personal.
That doesn't sound essential.
Yeah, it's like number one, the third main character in the trilogy needs a more impactful role in the films. Point 2, random ass background character needs to be brought back into the other movies.
That's.
You know what? That bounty hunter next to Jabba the Hutt in the special edition deleted scene, he needs to be in Return of the Jedi. God damn it!
I'm getting to the bounty hunters next because that's important too. But you absolutely you have to have Quinlan Vos because right now you're invalidating the entire Republic comics and all of the comic book canon.
This is George. This is George.
We're talking about gluing the George, the TV and the movie.
Yeah. Okay. So aside from that,
he has his ball of stuff that's over here, and the other ball is over there.
Keeping the George stuff moving on. You have to have Boba Fett putting on the iconic armor. You have to have the origin of the bounty hunter that is Boba Fett. You have to show that because you can't spend such a significant amount of time on Boba Fett's backstory as a kid and Attack of the Clones and not continue his through line into the original trilogy. So Boba Fett
Boba is a drop plot line. Like I will agree with that. Like I think having more, but and that, I mean, it was sketched out like it was a thing that like was almost a revenge. The thing that will really open up a can of worms that I think about a heck of a lot is if I had like the Infinity Gauntlet, I could change reality. How would I rewrite all 9 films to fit together better? Basically, like writing everything so that it's all heading towards Rise of Skywalker, like all things, or like retroactively changing everything. But you can't change it too much because you would ultimately change a lot of the movies very much. You have to keep the general story, but what would you change about each movie? And I'm not saying everyone answer that now because it's a big thing, but just think about it. Just think about it because I think it goes beyond just the prequels and how you can change things.
What would you do, Ben? Give us give us the top 3.
Yes. Can everyone give us their top 3? Just the George stuff, and maybe the 9, because I think that's really asking the impossible.
For me, it's Dooku and Phantom Menace. Have Christopher Lee in all 3 movies and do that. Get rid of Sifo Dyas and do something there. That's more meaningful, I think. And
wow,
my third one.
Yeah.
Hannah, what
are you? Qui-Gon and Dooku, you don't.
I mean, Ahsoka is the big one. Ahsoka explains so much and does just so much to the story. Ahsoka and I think Padme, probably Grievous. Grievous was contextually random throw-in for revenge. Same thing. It's like maybe introduce him in Attack of the Clones or something.
Have his origin story. Show him as a Kalish warrior before he was a cyborg.
Yeah.
Question.
Go ahead, Dan.
See, I think Grievous. Like, I think you could bring in a new bad guy, but what about to what Hannah was saying about Ahsoka? Can a simple thing be done by having Anakin hear her voice in like one of his visions or something? Is there like
it would help?
Because George did. There's precedence for that, right? Like George had Liam Neeson recording saying Anakin during his visions in Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm. And
I think you could easily make a special edition of the movies that glue George's together. Yeah. And 3D, please.
In 3D.
And so my theory is that this exists. I think that when George Lucas dies, a bunch of stuff is gonna just happen in the media, and one of the things is there's going to be a story that comes out that George Lucas has made a special edition of the prequels, and he just hasn't shown it to anybody, and it was found upon his death. Because we're going back to the quote that I'm going to just as time progresses, I'm just going to say more and more and more. George Lucas telling a reporter that he was going to retire and make films in his garage that only his friends would see. So I think George Lucas, you can't.
He's just making the special editions of the PT in his garage. Fan edit.
He is with his $1 billion of assets in his garage. What are you going to do?
Hired like 4 dudes to work on it.
I got George Lucas versus the people.
Yeah, Disney gave him $2 billion in cash. What did he do with that? I'm sure he gave a lot to charity, but I'm sure he didn't give all of that to charity. I would assume he's making something with it that is, satisfying his creative instinct.
So we talk about George doing. We talk about George doing like special edition for the prequels, as if he didn't already kind of do it. Like there's stuff in the Blu-ray releases of the movies that was not in the theatrical cuts, was not in the DVD cuts. Like he continued to tinker with those movies, not to the same extent as the original trilogy, because as he has said many times, the original trilogy was in his mind like 30% of what he wanted it to be when it came out in the 70s and 80s, and the special edition brought it up to 50. The prequels were much closer, but there's little changes. You're talking about voices during visions. In Attack of the Clones, when Anakin is having his nightmares about his mother, you can hear Shmi Skywalker in the soundtrack now that wasn't in the theatrical cuts. So there's little things like that. It's like he was tinkering with them. So I don't think there's
Oh yeah, I remember the theatrical cut. It was like, what's he doing in that?
He's just kind of writhing around. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I kind of think he made some of those changes, and whether he would have wanted to make more or potentially even did make more, I don't know. But the changes that he did make were not as drastic as the ones to the OT, because the originals, he wasn't happy with them. He's the only person on Earth who wasn't happy with them, but he wasn't happy with them.
But he did do a lot of changes that were to help the narrative, like the Ian McDiarmid stuff. I guess I'm just talking about like a post Clone Wars special edition, because it's just because that show became, no one knew that show would become like it might actually be my favorite Star Wars era ever. And I grew up with the original trilogy and I was there on premiere night of the prequels and loved them all. So no one expected the Clone Wars to be this iconic and essential, if not more. Like arguably Ahsoka is more popular as a character than Luke or Anakin. Who knows? Arguably, for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, and like so much of what is happening in the storytelling now is a spin-off from the Clone Wars, like literally or spiritually. Like so many of the stories, like the whole Mandalorian storyline, like so much of season 3 and Ahsoka and all that stuff comes right out of the Clone Wars, and it's because it had such an impact on the people watching it, and that then had an impact on the people who were going to make stuff. So
even Stranger Wars seems like the Clone Wars.
Skeleton Crew?
Stranger Crew.
Stranger Crew.
Skeleton Crew.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it feels like that could be a weird Clone Wars arc.
Yeah.
Where just like for 4 weeks we'd follow these kids around. And yeah.
I watched the Clovis arc, and I realized that's why I was onto the fact that like 99.9% positive that Ian McDiarmid's voice is in the see, this is how old I'm getting. I forget everything.
The supervisor. The
supervisor, yeah. So like just the fact that Palpatine's behind the banks, that's such a Clone Wars idea, and that ties into The Last Jedi too with TJ. I don't know. Yeah, the Stranger Crew totally feels like the Clone Wars.
Absolutely.
No, by the way,
Skeleton Crew.
I'm just gonna let you keep calling it the wrong thing.
Are we still on Joel's question? Are we
yes,
still?
We are.
Sort of.
Every question gets 40 minutes. That's a new rule.
Yeah, that's how we do the show from now on.
Wow.
Great question, Joel. Great question, Joel. Before we take another question and spend 40 minutes on it, Din, you're here. People might not have realized that, but because you've been leading the conversation for the last
Din's
20
here?
minutes,
What?
You're here. And you're not just here to provide your excellent Star Wars insight, but also here to do a little promotion of one of the new songs, one of the new F105 songs. So I think last time you were on, the new record had just come out or was just about to come out. But we're still promoting it. You wanted to highlight, we want to feature one of the songs off the new record, Immovable. And so I'm going to throw things over to you to tell us a little bit about Immovable, and then we'll give everybody a chance to hear it.
Well, I didn't realize that this song was kind of Star Warsy, at least in one reference, the Luminous line. I didn't even realize that when I wrote it, which was obvious Yoda homage. So then I just wanted to maybe get it out there in Star Wars fandom because of that. See if it resonates that way. There's one more song that's Star Warsy, which is Subterranean Hypogeum Blues, which is just me pulling out a thesaurus to say the Star Wars Underworld song. And because it is I even say going down to the underworld, underground, there's like a scum of hive and villainy line in that song too. So that was more intentional. This one wasn't intentional, and it kind of surprised me. And so I hope I get to release that at some point too. Yeah.
All right.
But I'm just wasn't expecting you to play the song this up close in the episode, so I wasn't prepared yet what to say. And I'm a little humbled by it, actually. I feel like, why am I taking up space in the first hour of the show? But thank you.
All right. Well, let's hear a movable off the new record, F105 2. Yes, 2, which comes after 3, naturally. F105 2, side A, Immovable. Enjoy.
Heard our songs on the radio. You found a vibration that you already know. You are a resonance, you are immovable. You are immovable. You are immovable. You are immovable. Set its items inside the make up the rock. They're all rolling around, even when it stops. You're an eternal light, even when you're not. You're unconditional, you are immovable. You are immovable. You are immovable. You are immovable. In the beginning was the thought, and right now I am thinking of you. Some feel this ends, but I don't think it does. I think forever is all we are is love. You're an eternal light, even when you're not. You're all luminous, you are immovable. You are immovable. You are immovable. You are immovable. Come around in the night, you wanna let me know. You just heard our song, it's on the radio. You found a vibration that you already know. You are a resonance, you are immovable. 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 You are
That was Immovable by F105 off the new record, F105 2, side A. Dan, you're muted again.
That bass was so good. I love the bass line. Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic.
so good. And in the
Isaac
spirit, in the spirit of the title, Immovable, the video froze halfway through playing it. So if you were just watching
It took
this,
immovable literally.
if you're watching it, go watch the proper video on the F105 channel, on the F105 YouTube channel. If you were just listening to it in the car on the way to work or whatever, you were just vibing along with the music. You didn't have a care in the world that our technology had glitched out on us.
Oh no,
But
that
yeah,
was the
everybody-
concept. It's concept art.
Concept art,
He's
yeah.
making concept art.
Just like Jar Jar stacking his plates in the Clone Wars, which I realized I didn't give any top threes of like special edition changes I would make to the prequels. Number one on the list has to be, I just want to see Jar Jar do art for the entirety of all of his scenes. I need that in Revenge of the Sith. I want to cut away from Anakin burning to death on the side of Mustafar and just have Jar Jar stacking some plates in a kind of interesting way. That's what I'd like to see.
Conceptual art piece.
But yes, everybody, make sure you check out F1052 Side A on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your songs. All right.
Yeah,
let's
I love
go.
that bass line too, Hannah. Hey, aren't we going to talk about the song?
Yeah, talk about the song.
I mean, seeing how I'm leading the show here, can I just continue?
Yeah, take it away. Take it away. It's all you.
Well, I don't know what to ask myself.
Din, how about that song?
Did y'all?
How about it? Yeah. Yeah. No,
and give us your top
baseline.
three. Give us your top three Quinlan Voss moments in the song.
Oh yes, I want to hear this.
When he was just when the camera moved by him, when he was just sitting there in the audience. Yeah.
I think, Din, whatever the next video is, it can be completely unrelated to Star Wars, anything like that. We'll have you on stage performing, and then we'll just cut to someone dressed as Quinlan Voss in the audience, just vibing, just enjoying it. And then Chris will insist that we cut that person into every single F105 video.
Someone call up Sal Perales right now.
Yeah, let's get Sal on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, does anyone have any... The only thing that occurred to me was, aside from that little line of "You're all luminous, you're immovable."
Yeah, I love that.
I think just the essence of what I do is just basically because I grew up obsessed with George Lucas and his spiritual mythology. Like, this song feels like that to me. I don't know. Does it feel like that to anyone else?
I think lyrically, you know what? Maybe the little like overt reaction is because this is so in line with your music, and it makes so much sense, this song, for you to create it and write it. Because I totally agree lyrically. I think you nailed it. And luminous, I love that. Like, you intentionally, also unintentionally use that word, because I think that's a really key thing of Star Wars purpose or meaning. You know, what a luminous being you are. I think that's such a strong thread through all Star Wars stories. So, yeah, no, I really like it. I think that's such a key word, and I love it. It's very good.
Yeah,
it's not a word that gets used nearly enough.
Yeah, so true. Yeah,
it's true.
Like, it's like Yoda uses it so, like, it's so profound in Empire Strikes Back when luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. Like, it's like such a emphatic moment, and a lot of times those sort of moments live on in our sort of like our memories of, they become like the words that get said become really sort of impactful. Like, may the force be with you is sort of like the ultimate example of that. And they get repeated a lot in subsequent Star Wars things. Luminous doesn't. Like, I think the only other time I can think of somebody using that word is when Yoda sort of quotes himself in the Clone Wars when he's at the funeral for all the Jedi that die in the temple bombing, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's not a word that we think of a lot, but or that gets used a lot, but it's one that probably should. And I think,
well, because I've been, I'm trying to get my head around quantum mechanics in reality. And I think all scientists who study it pretty much say that they don't have their heads around it either. Like, you can observe things, but you can't really understand it. But what we do understand is that, like, when I was talking about the rock, the atoms and the, all the particles that it's made of, the subatomic particles like neutrons and all that stuff, at the underneath all that is just it's photons and light making that. So we literally are luminous. Like when not metaphorically, like we're literally photons, at the core of everything. And then but like, I love when you see Qui-Gon's voice animated with the light around Yoda when he appears to him on Dagobah in the Yoda arc, because that's just sort of like visually saying the same thing. That we're just photons, yeah.
Yes. Well, I was gonna say
that's his physical form. What makes up his physical form is just the photons. The actual look. The when they come together to make Qui-Gon Jinn, that's just an illusion. Even in reality, the reality is that they're photons.
I feel like this song could be played in that rebel scene where Ezra is in the temple and he meets Yoda in like, it's not the War Between Worlds. I think it's just like a Force experience, Force vision. I feel like
it's kind of the World Between Worlds. Like it's like,
I can't remember. It's like it's almost there. I feel like this song could be played in that scene.
Ooh,
I feel like we could turn it in. Yeah, honestly, you could turn it into like a musical, and Yoda could sing. Our germ is inside.
I mean,
that's the next step. You got to do your own cover of this song, but in Yoda's voice.
I mean, last year we made big steps. Star Wars made big steps towards including, for lack of a better term, vocal music.
You're about to open a can of worms. You're about to.
And I think, like, having
you don't want to go there.
Having which was genuinely a good song, a genuinely good song in the end credits of the Acolyte, and then having a pop tune.
He just stopped making comments on Facebook about it, Ben. He only just stopped posting about it.
I know.
What scares me is that people actually notice what I post.
Let me talk. This is leading up to a compliment.
I'm muting.
Leading up to me saying that you can have. I think an F-105 song should be in a Star Wars project. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Listen to me.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you so much. That is really sweet of you to say. Thank you, and I'm sorry I didn't let you say it. I'm not going to. I saw the Acolyte thing go by me.
I knew.
And you know what? I just watched it go by me. I didn't grab it. There it went. It's gone.
I think did we talk about it on the show? I think we were too busy like reviewing Skeleton Crew and all this stuff. But did we talk about how that was nominated for a Grammy?
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh,
what?
Yeah.
I don't think it won, but it was nominated. Yeah.
The song?
All right. Yeah, the song.
Yeah, the song from that.
I have no. Okay.
Yeah, the Power of
Okay. I will not even say my thought about this song because it's irrelevant. I even told Dom, like, if it was my song in the credits, I would be against it. Because unless you did my song like the way they did that 80s tune in Stranger Crew, like they made it like the Huttese language or something like that, and it sounded otherworldly. I wouldn't even want my song in the credits because that the episode that the Acolyte song was in, all I'll say is it was so heavy. It was so heavy. And the reason why classical music was chosen by George was that it would be this glue, this emotional glue, right? That would sort of let everyone fall into it emotionally. When you choose like a pop song or a rock song or folk song, whatever, by definition, it can only please a small crowd. That's why there's so much music and genre in the world. Everyone needs something else, and classical symphonic music is the closest thing we have to something that can get kind of more universal and allow a big audience into. So that I'm against having, like, Star Wars should be this immaculate reality that George called it, where you are in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. So that anything that takes me out of that, I'm just not going to go for. So I won't even say anything about the song. Yeah.
Are you saying that Jefferson Starship is not canon?
Wait, what's that in?
The holiday special.
Holiday special.
Oh, okay.
The rock song in the holiday special.
I think that's officially not canon.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, if they used my song in the credits, obviously I would be a hypocrite and all for it. Because of my ego that every artist has. Let's be honest about that. But if that ever happens, remember that I said it here that I would be against it. Bring me back to reality.
Someone
I'm
clip
saying
this.
is we're already on the slippery slope. We're already headed that direction. Next thing you know, we'll have an American Graffiti style Star Wars movie with all pop tunes, and then next thing you know, we'll have a Star Wars musical.
Star Wars musical.
I mean, Strange Magic was amazing. That could have been a Star Wars movie.
There we go. All right. Go listen to Immovable. Listen to it again. Listen to it many, many times. And imagine it in a Star Wars movie. And we'll enjoy it that way. Let's go back to the questions. And answer some more of these.
Hold on, let me start the 40-minute timer.
Okay. Yeah, right. Well, we've got another one here we've got another short novella here that we could read. This one comes from Jet Dark. Jet Dark writes 2 questions unrelated. 1, with the talk on the last show about the budget and the role. The budget and its role. Sorry, excuse me, I read that wrong. Let me start again. 2 questions unrelated. 1, with the talk on the last show about the budget and its role in continuing popular series, I got to wondering if there's a lower threshold for Star Wars TV quality you'd be willing to accept. I remember watching Buck Rider and Knight Rider back in the day, and boy, they were not expensive at all. I read recently that some sort of Disney executive said that The Acolyte did well enough in viewership, but was too expensive to bring back. Would you guys be willing to watch a cheaper show? With The Acolyte, I really didn't see the expense. They could have done it on the volume for cheap, couldn't they? If they want, quote, real sets and practical effects, I'll go to a movie theater. But for the TV shows, which are inherently a longer form media that is more story-based, I'm more than willing to let the budget be the driving factor. At least that way we'd have the continuation of these stories. And question 2, the talk last week about the meanings behind your credit quotes got me to thinking, when are you guys gonna stop dissing Hannah every week and give her a proper introduction in the show?
Thank you. Someone gets me. I feel so seen.
We
right
found
now.
Hannah's burner account.
If I were her, I'd start boycotting the show until I got fair representation. Anyway,
maybe that's why I had so many weeks off. You don't know. Maybe.
Right. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for a great show, week in and week out. Just to answer question 2 very quickly, we are going to have a new intro within the next little while. I'm not putting it.
That's going to be 3 years. Little while in Dom years is 3 years.
I'm not putting a timeline on it. Look, if somebody else wants to do it, they're more than welcome.
It's definitely happening. It's going to come soon. I know we've said this before.
Din, let's go right now. Let's write it live. Let's write it live, Din, right now. Get the guitar.
He will.
You're tempting him.
The underworld.
What have you done?
Go crazy.
Are we all just leaving? What is happening here?
Well, I'm getting my keyboard cord doesn't reach.
Oh my god, he's actually got a keyboard.
When I pulled it, so it doesn't work because the keyboard cord.
That's okay. I'll just make piano sounds on top of it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. The underworld, where we get crazy. The underworld.
Chris got a keyboard. Din's got a guitar. I've got this
Chat
Yoda
GPT.
that I can sort of like play as a drum. Ben, what are
you
you
Chat GPT the lyrics
about the Star Wars podcast channel, the Star Wars Underworld.
When Chat GPT first came out, one of the things I did ask it was, who is Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy? And it was like, oh, we don't know, but it seems like it's somebody related to the Star Wars franchise, which was created by George Lucas in 1977.
What if it knows
description
now?
of Star Wars?
Okay, I got some lyrics here.
All right. Let's
out in the stars where the stories are bold, there's a crew that's got the tales to be told. Hannah, Ben, and Chris take the mic with Dom in the cockpit, ready to strike. It's the Star Wars Underworld, flying high, news and debates, from the dark to the light, from Tatooine to the Coruscant streets. Oh my god, there's so many lyrics.
Wait,
Star Wars Underworld.
Question from the back. Did that seriously come from like ChatGPT, or did you just make that?
Yeah.
That
No, ChatGPT.
Okay, so two observations. One, we're screwed as a species. Just let the robots take over. That was so good. And two, though, that didn't fix the problem, because you notice is Ben and Chris on the mic, Dom in the cockpit, Hannah still nowhere to be found in any of this.
No, I was there. I was in there. It's Hannah, Ben, and Chris take the mic with Dom in the cockpit, ready to strike.
Why? Wait, why am I on my own?
Whoa!
I don't know why you're in the cockpit. I don't know. No, maybe because you download the episode and upload it to audio. Maybe that's why you're in the cockpit.
What's that?
Hannah, Ben, and Chris. Hannah, Ben, and Chris take the mic with Dom in the cockpit, ready to strike. What are you striking?
Hannah, Ben, and Chris. Take the mic with Dom in the cockpit, ready to strike.
Hey, woo!
Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay.
It's Star Wars
you play that. Hannah, start the song.
Wait, let's do a punk. Let's do a punk.
Singing.
Yeah.
I'll drum on Yoda.
Dude,
Chris and Ben, they've got the mic, and Dom's in the cockpit, ready to strike.
Ready to strike.
Ready to strike.
It's the Star Wars Underworld flying high. News and debates from the dark to the light.
Let's go.
So good.
Oh, I think we need next celebration.
Dude, this is such good lyrics.
We're just doing this live instead of that's what we'll do at IHOP.
Oh, 100%.
We can do it live every week.
I actually like those lines.
Ben, what's your availability?
Chris and Ben and the mic and Dom in the cockpit, ready to strike. That's actually.
Why do you keep forgetting me? Stop forgetting me, damn it.
What do you mean?
Hannah Ben.
All right, I put the lyrics.
Sorry.
Did this go in?
Well,
thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
I did put you in the other intro.
I love.
At the end.
I love these.
I need more credit.
Well, no, but I don't have the files to mix it. Dom has those, so I could only tag it on at the end. Yeah, that was because I couldn't put it in.
This is incredible.
Hang on, I don't know.
I was gonna say I only see the first verse here, and I like that it
Can
says.
I send you the link to it?
Yeah, please do. I like that it says to the tune of a classic cantina style groove.
Classic
cantina style groove. No, this just took me to ChatGPT. Did not give me the actual lyrics.
Oh, okay. Pranked.
Out in the stars where the stories are bold, there's a crew that's got tales to be told. Hannah, Ben, and Chris take the mic with Dom in the cockpit, ready to strike. Chorus: it's the Star Wars Underworld flying high. News and debates from the dark to the light, from Tatooine to Coruscant streets. They're breaking it down with the fans in the seats.
Fans in the seats.
Gotta
be sitting down.
Yeah. Everybody gotta be sitting down. I guess then we're supposed to do the chorus again, which is, but we'll skip to the verse 2, which is deep dives, hot takes, theories ignite, legends and canon. They get it just right. Jeez, Mando to Ahsoka, Jedi so grand. They'll break it all down. No midi-chlorian scans. Oh my god. It's the Star Wars Underworld flying high. News and debates from the dark to the light, from Tatooine to the Coruscant streets. They're breaking it down with the fans in the seats. And then we have a bridge.
Good. I want a bridge.
Apparently, Sith or Jedi, it's all fair game. Light speed discussion. The hype is insane. with laughs and fun, yeah, the passion is strong. A galaxy far, but you won't wait long. Final chorus, big finish.
Big finish, key part there.
It's the Star Wars Underworld flying high. Streaming the Force. You live every night. Hold on. Every night.
Hang on.
We have to do
Let's
it
not
every
have
night.
unreasonable
Every night.
The supervisor says we have to do this every night. Streaming the Force to you live every night. So grab your blue milk and tune in and see the best Star Wars podcast in the whole galaxy.
Okay, start that chorus. What are the start of the chorus was pretty good. Say those words again to me.
It's the Star Wars Underworld flying high.
Flying high.
Screaming the Force to you live every night.
Okay. Star Wars Underworld flying high, bringing the Force to you every night.
So grab your blue milk and tune in and see the best Star Wars podcast in the whole galaxy.
Yeah.
All right, we got
Yeah,
something.
do this like a yeah. I love it. Talk about blues or something.
Yeah.
Is this what passes for
It's a hit.
entertainment? That's wild. This is incredible.
Boom.
So I think that's gonna do it.
That could I actually think that could be a good intro.
Honestly, it should be.
There's
It
something
should
with
be
this. I'll put it in a document for us.
It should be like an old timey like sitcom intro. We need to like film ourselves just like out on the street, doing like sort of like old timey.
Pouring the blue milk.
Yeah. Oh God, this just became so much more work.
That's the
It
point.
did.
That's wild.
Look what you did, Jet Dark.
Well, what the hell were we talking about?
No clue whatsoever.
Do we want to answer questions or do we just want to work on the intro?
We have 30 minutes left on the timer. Either one would count.
Lower budgets on TV shows.
Yeah,
Do
take
you
it away,
want
man.
TV shows to look
Take it away.
look cheaper. Now, I have an answer if nobody else does.
Go, take it away. But you have to sing it.
What? Well, my thoughts are no.
Oh my God, that was wonderful, Ben. Oh wow.
Oh shucks. Oh,
Yeah.
no, you're not gonna get any more of that. My thoughts is that I think if someone sat down and explained to me, hey, look, you're either going to get a cheap looking show or you're going to get no show. And I would be like, okay, I'll get the cheap show. But no one's going to do that. And I know that, like, I think we all have like very high expectations for what all media looks like, be it TV or whatever. 10, 15, 20 years ago, people expected TV shows to look cheap because that was the standard. We didn't have shows like Stranger Things that look like movies. And, that Netflix and the streaming era changed all of that. And I think, like, I can logically go like, well, I'll take a second season of The Acolyte if it's on a stricter budget and it just looks things. But the discourse is going to be insufferable. People are going to go like, oh, it looks cheap. Blah, blah, blah. It's like either this or nothing. And I think it does just open up a can of worms of just like, obviously it can look cheaper because I've watched plenty of shows and enjoyed plenty of shows that have a fraction of the budget and look cheap. A lot of the Marvel shows and a lot of the DC shows. I used to watch all those shows back in the day. They all look cheap and really bad sometimes. But a lot of times the story was good enough to warrant that. And you really just kind of look the other way because it's like, it's a TV show. We're in a new era now. So I don't know. It's, it's obviously much more complicated and not everyone's going to be on board with that. So who knows?
Yeah. It's a good point, Ben. Like, for a long time, TV was like, it was the secondary medium. It was the secondary thing that people looked to when it came to moving pictures. And then that changed because a bunch of people wanted you to stop paying for TV the way you've always paid for it and pay for it a different way. So they said, you come to Netflix, you come to HBO, you come to Disney Plus, and we'll give you something that looks like it should be a movie. And instead it's a TV show. And then people realized this might not actually be that much more money in that. And what we've wound up with is this sort of weird limbo. So I personally, look, if they're upfront with, look, the budget's going to be less, so we're going to make stuff that's smaller scale, that takes advantage of the budget to the best that it can, then I'm on board with it. I got no problem with that. But that doesn't seem to be the MO. The MO seems to be they want to make everything look as good as possible, understandably. And so then then you get into the analysis of all the stuff we were talking about last week, which can it generate enough revenue for you?
Yeah, so. And it's difficult because now the line between movie and television is continuing to get more and more blurry because, originally it was designed because the formats were so incredibly different physically. You have a signal that's being broadcast over the air to a little box in your house versus film that's being projected out onto a big screen with surround sound in a theater. I mean, those could not be two more different formats. Now, a lot of movies and TV shows, you're just watching it on your computer or your smart TV or your phone. You're using the same device. It's the same technology for consuming it. So it would be odd if the quality was different between TV shows and movies because you are consuming it the same way, so you expect it to be a similar quality, and that's the trap that they're in right now with all these things. All the new TV shows, especially the ones that are on the internet, need to look like the movies that are also on the internet because they're all on the internet. They're all streaming. So I don't really know how you reverse that. The only thing that I can imagine is doing like bottle episodes, like having entire shows that are just designed to be not that many sets, not that many actors, long extended takes, not a lot of editing needed, not a lot of effects needed, and just to do a budget saving show for the purpose of it where it still makes sense and the quality of what you see is still the same quality that you would see in a movie, but you're just seeing situations that are easy to and cheaper to produce, like you would have a budget saving episode called a bottle episode of a show. And I think that's the only way that you can get around that. And you just have to have whoever's making it have that creative limitation of you can't just write whatever you want. You have to write something that's easy to produce. It has to be a bunch of scenes of people just sitting in one building talking with each other and character development. Which, again, I would like to see. I think sometimes when Star Wars does that, I think it's cool. It would be interesting to see a whole show done that way just for the purpose of spending less money.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Hannah, do you guys have thoughts on this? Hannah's just shaking her head no. She's like, nah. These two are still writing a song just quietly in the background.
A little bit.
We know what you're doing.
I'm actually just having an old age memory blank at the moment.
Okay.
What was the question again?
Would you be willing to accept lower budget Star Wars TV shows if it meant the stories actually finished being told and you didn't wind up with a situation like The Acolyte where the show is very, very expensive and then therefore was the main reason it was canceled and therefore we don't
No, absolutely not. I think that the problem is just I've been saying it a lot that I think consumerism has killed Star Wars for me. Or like unadulterated. There's nothing wrong with consumerism. Nothing wrong with anything really. Well, you know
You take
this sort of thing.
Everything in moderation is fine.
Yeah. That whole thing. Yeah. What I'm saying is it hasn't been in moderation. It's been unbridled consumerism. And when I say consumerism is killing Star Wars for me, I mean it like this. Obi-Wan Kenobi had a couple of lines in the old trilogy. But over 10 years of waiting to hear more from him again, or longer, almost 20 with the prequels, he grew emotionally inside us for almost 2 decades to the point where he was as real as any one of our friends or family members. But consumerism is killing Star Wars for me because we don't have any time to sit with any of these characters. You start to feel something for whatever his name is in Jode in Stranger Crew, because he has 20 different names. I forget which one is original. But just as you start to love him, it's not just that he's gone. It's that the next show is out 3 months later and you forget about him. It's like dating too many people or something, and you can't give your emotional attention to someone. So I'm all for maybe a little more restraint and monogamy in Star Wars in terms of what they put out. Because the power of Star Wars was letting it grow in your consciousness as a real mythology over time. That's actually where the power is. And the longer they wait to do the post-sequel trilogy movies, kind of the better. Like, give all the young people who grew up with Rey and Finn and Poe and Rose and everyone time to miss them, and for them to imagine what they're doing and to grow in them as real people. So I just think if you do that, then you don't have the problem. Then you just put out less and you put all your money and everything into something.
I'll add on to that and just say, the Star Wars is at its most fun, I think, when it's a big deal that there's a new Star Wars. So like, Ben, I don't know if you remember this. When you and I were going in to see The Force Awakens for the first time, I think, Chris, you were already in the theater or you were at the car or something. Like, for whatever reason, it was me and Ben walking in. And I remember, Ben, you handed me my ticket. And it was like a genuine, like, religious moment of like, here we go. We're about to see a new Star Wars movie. I was like, I'm going to fall to my knees here in a second. I'm so overwhelmed by this. Because I never thought I would see that. And every, having a Star Wars movie every year was like a nice event, and you looked forward to it every year. You did it once a year, and it was great fun. When the shows started, like, it was like essential to me with like Mando 1 and Mando 2 and Book of Boba. It was like, I gotta watch these right away. Like, this is a big moment. It's an event. It's exciting. With every show that comes along, it's not that I don't look forward to them. It's not that I don't enjoy them, but I don't feel that like I gotta be there. I gotta be at this moment when the premiere episode drops or when any episode drops. I'll sometimes wait till the next day to watch the episode if it's more convenient for my schedule. Like, it used to be I would move heaven and earth to make time for this episode. I would accept being dead tired the next day because I needed to see this episode. Now it's like, oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And it's the fun. It's not that it isn't fun, but it doesn't have that like wow party atmosphere that I always associate with a Star Wars release. And I sort of expect Mandalorian and Grogu will bring that back to an extent, because it'll have been a long time since we did that with a new Star Wars movie. But I do wonder, again, because if Star Wars becomes this thing where it's like we're constantly moving to the next thing, like what Din is describing, one, it takes away from the like experience because you're not spending the time, living with these characters. And two, it's like it just sort of becomes another thing. Like, oh well, I'll get to that. I'll get to that when I can. It's another, it's not as special. So I do think there's a bit of an absence makes the heart grow fonder ness that perhaps should be embraced a little bit, where it's like, a movie, we get 2 movies every 3 years, and in the 3rd year maybe there's a series, that sort of thing.
I risked getting fired. I left work not telling anyone when I was the the property manager for one of the biggest event spaces in Toronto, the Met Center. And I also had my security license, so I was also security for the building in that position. And I literally, and this place is right downtown, surrounded by death stick addicts. I got on my bike and I left work without telling anyone for a half an hour and biked to the Scotiabank Theater and bought my like 9 3D IMAX tickets for The Force Awakens and came back. And if anyone knew that I left, it would have been a legal liability. I would have been fired. That's how, like, I kind of missed that. But I think it worked out for the Clone Wars too, right? Because that got canceled. And then so we felt that excitement when that came back. So maybe that'll happen with characters from Star Wars Acolyte. It'll come back in some way, and we'll have what I mean by power is like, I'm not just saying that. I mean, like, it's mythology. The power of mythology is that it lives in your consciousness, and that's it. And we don't have any time for that to happen, but you actually have time for that to happen. Maybe if they slow down and you miss the Acolyte characters, if they somehow come back in 10 years, then they'll be that much more powerful to people.
Mm-hmm. And that also, the time away gives you time to revisit things. Like, I haven't revisited the Acolyte. I haven't revisited Mando 3. I haven't rewatched Ahsoka. Like, those things came out, and then they happened, and then they were over, and we're on to the next thing. I haven't gone back to them, so I haven't, like, part of the reason these things
How
grow.
have you not rewatched Ahsoka, dude? How have you not rewatched that?
True, I have second that.
Because it's kind of mid.
Yeah. Oh, brother, what the?
But you can't even get it. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, but
busy
but so here's the thing. If I had revisited it, maybe I wouldn't have that opinion. The thing that people don't understand about why the prequels are held up as beloved now when they weren't when they came out is because people watched them over and over again, and they found the things in them that they liked, and they brought them to the forefront. And so now when they think about the prequels, they don't think about the stuff that they don't like. They think about the stuff that they do like. And so you because the next thing is coming up, I'm not going back to that other stuff. And I look back on Ahsoka and I go, it has great moments, but overall, it doesn't it doesn't wow me. But if it was the only thing, the way Clone Wars was the only thing, I'd probably go back to it and be like, oh, actually, that was really great. Those things in there that are really, really amazing. But instead, it's just kind of all I'm left with is my initial impression of it, and I haven't gone back to it. And that, I think, is true of all of this, of Clone Wars, of prequels, of the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi, like of all of this stuff. Empire Strikes Back becomes this sort of legendary movie because people watch it over and over again in the context of the trilogy. When it comes out, people like the movie, but people didn't think it was going to achieve this sort of legendary status that it has, where when a director says, oh, I want to make a great sequel, they say, I want to make the Empire Strikes Back of the, Planet of the Apes franchise. They say that now because we understand that, but that wasn't the initial critical response to that movie. So, yeah.
Do you think that it's do you think that it's less to do with the frequency of Star Wars and more to do with just how much of everything else there is as well?
No, because I've cut out everything else.
Yeah, that too. Okay. That too. I mean, it's been a fantasy sci-fi barrage since The Force Awakens became the highest-grossing American film. The industry has not retreated since then. And you can't. I want to watch Dune. I want to watch Rings of Power. I want to watch the MCU shows. But I would be homeless because I wouldn't get any work done if I were to watch everything.
It's like, you need to cut it. But I feel like for me, like, that kind of takes a little bit of the event away from it, because it's like the further back I go into time in my life, the more significant Star Wars was, because the less of everything else there was. And so it's like, there were times in history, like in the 80s, where you had nothing comparable to Star Wars. Nothing. There was nothing that was at that quality or scale. And over time, other people have been inspired by Star Wars to make things and their own stories and their own franchises. And, there also was a time where if I wanted to watch a movie, I only had like several dozen movies to pick from, all the ones that I had on DVD or whatever, or TV shows that I had on DVD, and that's all I had. And if it wasn't coming out on TV that day, I would have to go from my personal library, and it would be a whole chore to go down to a Blockbuster and get another movie and watch it. So Star Wars would have the significance of, well, this is the one that I'm going to watch again and again and again, because it's the one I like the most of the several dozen that I have. And that's why I did watch the, original 6 Star Wars movies, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And now it's not that I like those things less, or I don't think that the things that have been coming out more recently are of less significance or less quality in a vacuum than the ones that came out then. But now I can literally type something into my phone, and in 1 minute I'm watching 99% of all movies and all TV shows that like came out. Like, yes, certain things you have to do a little digging for, but almost everything in 1 minute I can access. And so my attention is just like all over the place with all of these different forms of media and franchises and shows and movies that I'm consuming, that it's like I don't have that pull to either go back and revisit a Star Wars thing so many times that, its significance and lore grows in my mind, and I can sit with the characters in that way that you could also when you had so much time to do it between things. And then also, I think the reason why my excitement for a future Star Wars movie or a future episode of the Star Wars show is less than before isn't because we've had so much Star Wars, but because I'm excited for so many other things that are coming out too, that are media from other franchises that I'm equally invested in, that it just kind of dilutes the excitedness for each thing, because it's like every few weeks there's something coming out on streaming or in the theaters that is really, really interesting and really high quality and really well done and gonna win a lot of Emmys or Oscars. And it's just the quality and the quantity of filmmaking and television making is so high right now that it's just Star Wars is competing with all these things. So it loses its significance as, wow, this is by far the best thing that I'm going to experience this year when you're going into it.
The number of, you know what? I said no to your original asking of the question. I'm going to change my answer to yes. The number of shows I've watched one episode of and been like, that was great, I can't wait for episode 2, and then have no idea what happens in the rest of the show. It's longer than the list of the number of shows that I've watched from beginning to end in a year. Like it's, like I watched one episode of The Penguin, thought it was great. I haven't watched any more. One episode of Dune Prophecy, thought it was great. I haven't watched any more. The other day I decided to watch that new Sterling K. Brown show on the Disney Plus where he's like the Secret Service agent. I watched the first episode. I'm like, that was good. I'll probably watch episode 2. I haven't watched it, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to. It takes a lot to get you to come back for episode 2 because there's something else that's grabbing your attention.
Yeah, my thing is I love to obsess about Star Wars.
Yes.
I love to be.
We know that from your back-to-back trivia championships, Ben. We know this.
Yeah, it comes through in different ways in my life and in my personality. And it doesn't just happen with Star Wars. I love obsessing about certain things and I learn all about it. But I think part of that experience of just being like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. This thing I just watched, and this is all I'm going to think about and talk about for the next week or 2 or month or whatever else. And we had that even into the sequel era. We had that with the months after Force Awakens. Like, oh my God, this movie. Like, yeah, I like talking about like, what I didn't like, what I liked about the movie, but overall, it's a new Star Wars movie. I am obsessed with this thing. I can't think of anything else. And I love that feeling of just like being laser focused on whatever the new thing is. But then it's, now we're in this new era where I'm like, you get a new episode of The Acolyte or Skeleton Crew or Mando or whatever else, or Bad Batch. Like I'm thinking like, take any of these episodes and go back 10 years and show it to people that, things, we would all lose our minds. Like, take the worst episode of The Acolyte, or the worst episode of Skeleton Crew, take it back and show it to people. Their faces would melt. Like, it would be incredible because they've never seen anything like it before. And we would dream of having something like that. And to us now, it's disposable. It's just stuff to watch and then forget about. And I had that feeling again after watching Skeleton Crew, and I was lucky enough to watch it and then talk about it on the show. And then afterwards, after the holidays, my family wanted to watch it. So we binged it again and we watched the whole series again. And that was great. And I was feeling that like obsession period of just like this. But then, moving on to other things now. I'm not as obsessed with it anymore. I mean, it makes me sad because I'm like, I was really into that show. I love that show. Listen to the soundtrack. It's great. And I think it does suck that we are in this position where it's great having all this new content. I'm missing the fact that we don't have something to talk about right now. Like, I'm greedy. Like, give us a new Star Wars show. When is Andor coming out? But then again, I don't have time to process stuff. I think these shows, like every one of these episodes, like ideally, I'd want them to release like a new episode every 3 weeks. I need like 2 or 3 weeks just to process one episode and then move on to the next thing. And I know that's not going to happen.
Monthly releases.
And then we have, yeah, exactly. But like, it is this double-edged sword of, oh, great, more Star Wars content. And there's also, oh, great, there's lots of new Star Wars content. It's less special. And, what do you want to do? Star Wars just to go away? Maybe, but that's not really an option because the people in charge need to make money. And that's not going to happen.
Won't somebody think of the shareholders, Ben? Won't somebody think
and that's
of
the thing that's the thing with every franchise. That's why we're getting so much stuff now, is because unless a filmmaker like Robert Zemeckis puts their foot down and says, no, you will not make a sequel to this or reboot it over my dead body, for Back to the Future, by the way, like every franchise is just going to continue forever. It's never going to stop.
No, but economics is already slowing it
and all this, like, forever.
It will balance itself out. It can't forever. Like it can't. It's not sustainable. Like every show was down last year. Like Acolyte was number 2, but everything was down. You guys were talking about that
there is an
last week.
oversaturation.
Yeah, like it can't. Nothing can go on forever. It will slow down at some point. It already is.
Because
so
the shows you guys are talking about, I haven't even had a chance to watch. Penguin, Dune Prophecy shows that if that was the only thing on TV, I probably would have given a shot. But I'm even like Marvel, MCU, like that's the thing that like second to Star Wars is like one of my biggest things. I'm behind on that stuff. I haven't watched a lot of that stuff because there's just too much.
Burn it all down. No.
See, I love this show because we don't have. This is great for me because that's how I grew up. I grew up with waiting for the next Star Wars for 19 years. So I love the fact that we get to just sit here and talk about the way things could be, and not be talking about the thing that just came out this week. It's actually like great for me.
It is fun. It is fun. Look, we've done a lot on this show. We've answered 2 whole questions.
Yeah, we did all of that.
So
we answered 2 questions. Didn't address any of the news.
I have to go soon because I didn't think we were going to be this long.
And I'm gonna say it's time. It's time to wrap things up for this week. So,
oh my god, amazing!
Ilster, Vlad, Tally, Jesse. Look, you thought your questions were going to be answered this week when we were starting with the segment. Little did you know, we would answer 2 questions and write a song instead. So that's where we'll leave things for this episode. Very fun discussion.
So towards the beginning, Dominic, you mentioned that you had asked ChatGPT who Ben Hart the Star Wars guy was.
Yeah.
So let's see what it says now.
Oh God.
Ben Hart, often known by his online moniker, the Star Wars Guy, is a prominent figure in the Star Wars fan community. He wears several hats, including social media director. He serves as the social media director for Star Wars Underworld, helping to manage one of the key fan sites dedicated to Star Wars news and discussion. Site turns search 7 content creator and podcaster. Ben is active on platforms like Twitter, using the handle @BenHart with no E, where he shares Star Wars memes, news, and commentary. He also hosts or appears on podcasts related to Star Wars, engaging with fans through discussions about films, series, and broader franchise topics. Site turn search, zero community engagement. Beyond his social media work, Ben Hart is well known for his enthusiastic participation in the Star Wars fandom, often providing insights, humor, and critical perspectives that resonate with longtime fans and newcomers alike. In summary, Ben Hart is a key influencer within the Star Wars community, leveraging social media, podcasts, and digital content to keep the fandom lively and informed.
There you go.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
Wow, that is so comprehensive.
Wow.
When it said,
For a bio,
when it said,
dude, that's pretty good.
Yeah, when it said he wears several hats, I was really hoping it was going to say one of them is top hat.
Yeah,
Me too. I thought that's what it was referencing. I was like, wow, deep cut.
I was ready.
I
so
both love that, and also I want to delete all of my digital footprint right now because that's freaking creepy, man.
It's the future, bro. It's the
My
future.
friend Ben, the influencer.
Yeah, one of the most
Influencer.
prominent
Never been called that
influencers in the
before.
Star Wars community.
Oh my goodness. So
Should be in
yeah,
Star
you
Wars.
can follow Ben Hart @Ben Hart with no E.
Apparently, you already knew that. You can just ask ChatGPT about me, and you get all that information. No big deal.
Don't take our word for it. You don't need to anymore. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. You can keep up with us at the SWU. We will be back with another show, same time, same place next week. If you want to tune into our live shows, they're at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific every Thursday on YouTube, Twitch, and our new Facebook page, which is the tiny one without the hundreds of thousands of followers, because that one is still in a very large Facebook prison. They need a very large Facebook prison to hold that whole page, but it is in there. So make sure you refollow us on Facebook at our new account, the Star Wars Underworld. If the SW Underworld, the SW Underworld. There we go. That's what it's called. If you're not, Dom, thank you so much for hosting this week.
Oh, it's been so fun. Although I think we can really just let ChatGPT take it from here. What's the point in us doing anything? No, it's been a lot of fun. Really, I love it when we can do a sort of a Q&A episode, even though we only did 2 Qs, which is exciting in and of itself. So lots of fun. Looking forward to do. Actually, no, I'm not here next week. So looking forward to doing this again in 2 weeks.
Amazing. At Dominic J25 is where you can follow Dominic, and make sure you check out Dominic's Substack as well, which is dominic.g.jones.
Nope. DominicGJones.substack.com.
No.
Yeah, I'll have a new post coming out late tomorrow because I didn't have time to write it this week, so I'm gonna write it tomorrow. There'll be a new post tomorrow, late tomorrow, and then a new post early Monday. So look out for those.
Awesome. Make sure you check it out. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Yeah. You already know everything. Why do I need to say anything? Clearly.
Yes. Can I confirm?
He brings humor to Star Wars fandom.
I know everything about
I think ChatGPT needs to add in something about a deadpan, dry sense of humor to Ben.
Well, I only asked it to give me a brief summary, so I wonder what happened if I asked it to write a novel about Ben. What it would say.
Oh, good lord.
We'll find out next week.
We could do a dramatic reading. Yeah.
That's right. And Hannah, thank you for hosting as well.
Thank you so much for letting me be here. Seeing as I'm not even fully in your intro yet, I still feel like a guest every week. But it's another great show. And I will reveal my favorite co-host next week on the show. So we'll see how that goes. Hey? Yeah. See how that
Amazing.
goes.
Since Dominic isn't going to be on the show, can I accept the award for him if he wins, so I have a double chance of winning?
can accept on my behalf.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Look, long time listeners.
Hey, I
guess
give it over as hosting for a bit, like I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the running. You're in the running, Dan, at this point.
Yes, then counts. And Dan, thank you so much for guesting this week as well. And make sure you give our best to all the other Star Wars addicts at Star Wars Addicts Anonymous.
Plug where we can find your music one more time.
Oh yeah, at F105.
Are we having a Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy moment with Din?
Yes, we're having the Din Star Wars Addicts moment.
No, but
F105.
I'm getting confused because the all the feeds keep reloading. But yeah, at F105 music. Actually, I just noticed that.
We'll never know.
Oh God.
We'll never know what he just noticed. We made it so far.
Is our second.
Oh.
What happened? What is happening?
What is happening? The internet is being funky.
At F105
video on YouTube.
You keep cutting out, Dan. I don't know if you know you're cutting out, but you're cutting out. Oh, F105 everywhere. Type it in. Click not the aeroplane of it. Click the person that's behind it, and you'll find in everywhere at F105 and listen to his new song.
F105 music.
F105 music. And
there we go. There we go.
Get ready for his next big hit, the Star Wars Underworld Jam, which written
in
by
a smooth cantina style.
Yeah,
because you can't type Din anymore to help with that because of Din Djarin. Like that's actually true.
It's true.
Din Grogu.
Yeah, I used to be the only.
He used to be the only Din, is what he's gonna say there. He used to be the only Din. There you go.
Only one.
Yeah.
Favreau.
The real Din. It'll be like the real Mace, the real Din.
There you go.
Check out all the other shows on the network.
Ben Hart with no E, Din with no Djarin.
There we go. There we go. For more of that great humor, follow the Raeside on social media, RAE, and go to the Raeside YouTube channel as well. It's spelled the same way on the YouTube channel. How about that? You can also check out.
How about that? Oh, wow.
Canon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more on the Star Wars Underworld. Does that work? And you can follow us on social media at the SWU, including Blue Sky. Make sure you follow us on Blue Sky, the fastest growing social media network, where everybody has a glass of blue milk at 5 p.m. Also,
what?
Make sure you subscribe to our podcast feeds if you're listening to a podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube. We will see you on the Discord for our upcoming Princess Mononoke movie night. Link is in the description if you're not already there. That's it for Din and Dom and Ray and Ben. My name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.